Hey guys, so the Senate majority after the 2020 election will be decided in just 9 days with the runoff elections in the state of Georgia on the 5th of January. So right now, the Senate is 50-48 in favor of the Republicans, but Republicans need 51 seats for a majority because they do not hold the vice presidency after January, and the Democrats have 48 seats. They have to win both of these Georgia races if they want to win that 50-50, and they will have the vice presidency with Kamala Harris, so she will break all the ties in favor of the Democratic Party. Now, for the GOP, they only have to win one seat on the 5th, and it'll be 51-49, which means Republicans will be able to block much of Biden's agenda. However, a 51-49 majority for the Republicans would not be so bad for Democrats because there are swing votes that may vote with the Democrats from time to time. So these two races are still undecided, and these races could not be any closer. I mean, the state of Georgia in this election is basically the closest state. I mean, it was a shocker when Biden was able to flip the state of Georgia, but unable to flip the state of North Carolina, which I'm pretty sure surprised a lot of people. But the Democrats did do a lot of campaigning and work there since 2018 with the loss of Stacey Abrams. So before I take a look at the polls, make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. We'll be updating you guys on the race a lot more over there, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. So taking a look at the runoff numbers, this is just the regular election results. As you can see, David Perdue won with 49.7%, just a couple thousand votes off of the 50% he needed to win without a runoff, but he said that he is excited to go into a runoff with Jon Ossoff. But really, this race is all about turnout because, as you can see right here, both candidates, I mean, they won in 100,000 votes of each other. So both candidates, they have the votes to win. The turnout for these runoff races are obviously going to be quite a bit lower. Currently around 1.97 million people have voted, I believe, which is nearing that 2 million mark, as you can see. Or actually, no, it has already reached 2 million. It's at 2.097 million votes already cast for the Georgia runoff races. That is really very high. The previous record was, I believe, in 2008 for Georgia in the regular election, which was 3.9 million, and now it was 4.9 million after 2020. So turnout skyrocketed in the state of Georgia, and for the 2020 election, these runoffs, I mean, knowing how important they are, the turnout is probably going to be a lot higher than a typical runout, but still it is not going to reach that 4.9 million votes. And really, it's just about who can get those voters out, because as we saw on the presidential level, Democrats can win the state of Georgia. Joe Biden did win the state of Georgia with 2.473 million votes, around the same as David Perdue. So it's really, again, it's just about which party can get those voters who voted for them in 2020 on the 3rd of November to turn out for them again in January. So the polls, I mean, they don't give us too clear of a picture. This race is literally a dead even tie. I mean, David Perdue leads by 0.5% against Jon Ossoff, and Raphael Warnock leads by 0.6% against Kelly Loeffler. And statistically, this is a virtual tie. No candidate really has any advantage over another in the Georgia runoff races. 0.5%, very, very well within the margin of error for these polls, and there really have not been too many of them. However, the latest polls, they do show and they do correlate with the trends that we've been seeing throughout the entire race. Raphael Warnock, because he is running against the weaker candidate Kelly Loeffler instead of David Perdue, he is doing consistently just that tiny 1% better on average compared to Jon Ossoff, and that has stayed true for almost the entire election cycle since the 3rd of November. Raphael Warnock running against Kelly Loeffler, who was appointed, not elected, so this is actually her first election, and that's why there's a special election here. She has to win on the 5th of January if she wants to win her first 6-year term, compared to David Perdue, who was elected in 2014. So Jon Ossoff, I believe it would have been a better candidate than Raphael Warnock if he was running against Kelly Loeffler, but you basically have the stronger two candidates in the regular race, and I would say the weaker two candidates in the Senate special election. But Warnock has always been doing better than Jon Ossoff, just by that tiny bit, because there was opposition from Doug Collins, who won 20% of the vote that split the Republican ticket here in the Georgia Senate special election held in November. So there is opposition against Loeffler that there really isn't for David Perdue. And Loeffler, as I've said, she's been trying to connect herself to Donald Trump a lot more because that is what many of the voters in Georgia want. They wanted Trump to win, the Republicans, and they wanted these senators to do something about it, which they really cannot. But I think that, making herself closer to Trump, I think will help her. But, the polls right now, they're just so close. That 0.5, 0.6% is absolutely insignificant. And the polls were pretty accurate in the state of Georgia. I mean, it was off by less than 1% on the presidential level. And knowing how wrong the polls were overall, that less than 1% is very, very good. I mean, just for a normal election cycle, being off by less than 1% is very, very accurate. That was the polling average for the state of Georgia. It was 1.2%. Joe Biden eventually won by 0.24% in the state of Georgia against Donald Trump. So the polls, they were pretty good here in Georgia. So you shouldn't be as skeptical about these as if you were, compared to a state like Wisconsin, which was off by, 7-8%. But these runoff polls, as you can see, the latest polls show, Perdue +1, +2, while Warnock leads against Loeffler. So again, Warnock is doing that tiny bit better. Taking a look at Survey USA, Ossoff +5, Warnock +7. Survey USA was the most accurate pollster in the 2020 election. They're A-rated. They have a very good track record, as we talked about, I believe, a couple days ago. They have a much larger sample size, which makes their higher rating even more impressive. I mean, they are a very, very good pollster, and they had Ossoff +5 and Warnock +7. That is obviously wrong. Jon Ossoff is not going to win this race by 5%, nor is Warnock going to win by 7%. But the fact that they have the Democrats winning is very good. Their bias is 0.1% in favor of the Democratic Party, which is one of the smallest biases out there. It is literally the smallest possible bias you can have. So Survey USA, they should be trusted. Trafalgar Group, pretty inaccurate. I mean, they were off in many, many races. They had Trump winning the election. So, I mean, they just got lucky in 2016. I mean, in Georgia, they did horribly. They had Brian Kemp winning the 2018 race by, I believe, 16 points, or was it 14, but something, near 15%, and he won, I believe, by less than 2% against Stacey Abrams. So Trafalgar Group in Georgia, I mean, they're not good, and they had David Perdue +3, Kelly Loeffler +7, Perdue +3, that's all right for Trafalgar Group. They do overestimate the Republicans by a lot, but the poll before that showed a tie and Loeffler +3. So that's the problem here, is that according to Trafalgar Group, Republicans are gaining ground. You also have that Emerson poll, David Perdue +2 and Kelly Loeffler +2. So really, the polls, they don't tell us anything about this race. It is just too close that these numbers are so insignificant. At this point, it's just a tie. I mean, unless Ossoff or Perdue can lead by 2-3%, really, the polls don't tell us anything. It's just, 0.6%, statistically speaking, that is literally nothing. I mean, the margin of error is well over 0.5%. And taking a look at the early voting numbers, already 2.097, so basically 2.1 million Georgians have already voted. This is literally higher than that, not higher, but this is 9 days before people actually vote on the 5th of January, which will increase turnout by a lot. Of course, it has the rate has gone down a little bit because of Christmas, but it's going to speed back up as the race nears, and that's 27.1% turnout, which is not too bad considering we are still over a week away from the election. And taking a look at the counties, Fulton County, that is where the city of Atlanta is located. Of course, that is the largest county, and that went 70-28 in favor of the Democrats there in November. So that county right there, 31% turnout, 31.7%, that is pretty good, higher than the average. And I believe almost 300,000 people have already voted there. So that's a plus for the Democratic Party. And tomorrow I will be doing a much more thorough analysis of the early voting statistics. So make sure you come back for that. I will just be taking a look at the math in every single county, taking a look at the turnout and then using the data that we got from the 2020 election for that, so we'll have a much more comprehensive map. And I'll be doing that in sort of like an election night theme. I'll show you guys what the graphics are going to look like in just a moment here at the end of the video. So I did do some math for this video. I did take a look at the race and ethnicity once again, and using the 2020 US Senate election between Jon Ossoff and David Perdue as, I guess, the benchmark for the exit polls, basically as a benchmark for the percentage how each demographic group voted in the Senate election. So as you can see, Perdue won, 69-29 for the white vote, which makes up 62% of the electorate there in Georgia. Jon Ossoff, very strongly won the black vote, of course, 87%. Not the strongest, but still it is pretty significant. And then the Latino vote, 52-43. So I only took a look at these three categories because, these, down there it gets a little bit hazy with what, each with what the U.S. Elections Project and what CNN considers, as each ethnicity or race. So I'm only taking a look at the three main ones of white, black, and Hispanic. These are the three main ethnicities in the state of Georgia. So you have the white vote with 1.16 million votes already in, 28.5% turnout rate. That is the same as the black vote, which I think will definitely benefit the Democratic Party, because in case you didn't know, Republicans have been known to deploy voter suppression tactics in these, in these southern states. And the runoff system, that really is a system based off of racism. It was developed because if there was one black candidate, I guess, running against many white candidates, then the black candidate will win a huge and overwhelming majority of the black vote, and then the white candidate would have all their votes split, so nobody would get to 50%, but the black vote, because, if there was only one black candidate, they would win. So this runoff system, that's why it was developed in the state of Georgia, just so that you would have the strongest white candidate running against the black candidate, and in that case, the white candidate would always beat the black candidate, because there are, of course, an overwhelming majority of white people in the state of Georgia. So that is why there is this runoff system, and I believe it's in Louisiana as well. So that's why it is found in the South. And Georgia, having the same turnout rate for black and white voters, that's a very positive sign for the Democratic Party, because, they try to get black voters to not turn out. So 28.5% for both of them. And I did the math with the exit polls for the white vote. If we were to take a look at the exit polls and compare to the numbers, then David Perdue would win 812,000 of these 1.1 million votes, and then Jon Ossoff would win 348,000 of those votes. For the black vote, which split 87-11 for Jon Ossoff, David Perdue would win just 79,000 votes to Jon Ossoff's 582,000 votes from black voters. And then the Hispanic vote, which I just consider to be the Latino percentage right there, 52-43, then that would mean that Jon Ossoff will win the majority, 23,000 votes from that 43,000, and then David Perdue 19,000. And adding these three main demographic groups up, that would give David Perdue 911,000 votes, 911,849 to Jon Ossoff's 954,019. So, without considering these three bottom categories here, Jon Ossoff is very close to 50%, and he does have more voters from the Hispanic, black, and white votes combined. But of course, tomorrow I'll be doing the county by county thing, so that will be a lot more accurate than just taking a look at three races and ethnicities, and then taking a look at the early votes by age. 66 and up, as you can see over the last couple of days, that number has been going down, now at 35.7% for the distribution of voters. As you can see, the younger voters, of course, the lowest, and the lower that number is, the more it will benefit the Democratic Party. So, the numbers have been moving in favor of the Democrats in the last couple of days, with more younger voters voting, and there's a much higher chance of those voters being Democrats. And if you were to take a look at the the numbers by age. As you can see, Democrats sweep all of these younger age groups, while as you get older, they are more favorable towards the Republicans. As you can see, that's 65 and older, 58% in favor of the Republicans. And of course, there is still that problem where a lot of Georgian Republicans, this is why a lot of Republicans are still backing Trump, is that, they don't want the voters to be depressed, so that they won't, come out and vote after that Trump lost. So they want to keep their hopes up, so that they want them to think that maybe Trump can still win the election. So they do turn out for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, although there is definitely going to be many Republicans who are very upset about the Trump loss and are not going to turn out. That was a thing early on in the race. And then, as you can see, the amount of people who did not vote in the 2020 general election but did vote, there's a lot of young voters, I'm pretty sure, those who turned 18 from November 3rd to, I believe, the deadline, December 10th or somewhere around there, that registered and are now voting, and those are young voters, and they will benefit the Democrats. That's 67,000 votes. In-person votes, we've had 1.3 million. The accepted mail-in ballots, 735,000. Mail-in ballots rejected, 3,000. That's really pretty insignificant. There have been 1.3 million mail-in ballot requests from the state of Georgia. So the numbers, they are really, the polls don't tell us anything. It's literally a tie. Purdue might be leading by 0.5%, but really that's nothing. It's not going to be 0.5% in favor of Purdue in the end. It is going to be very, very close. Warnock plus 0.6. That's good, but it definitely doesn't mean that he's winning this race, and this 0.5% definitely does not mean that David Perdue is even leading in this race because of just how close those numbers are. So polling right now really not telling us too much. Really what it's telling us is the turnout and the amount of people who have voted, and tomorrow I'll be making a much more comprehensive list, and I'll be doing it in sort of an election night style. So this is a sneak peek for my final Georgia election night. So that's the one with Purdue winning. That's for the Republicans winning. I'll decide on who I think is going to win towards the end, and this is the one for Democrats winning. Tell me whether or not you like these newer graphics, or if you want me to stay with the one that I used last time, or the one I used for my latest, or my second latest election night, with that thing on the side, which I did quite like. So tell me that, in the comments below. So there's a sneak peek, and tomorrow it'll be something like this, I guess, for the Georgia elections, with this. So yeah, that will basically be it for this video. Make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Comment below who do you think is going to win. I want to see what you guys think about this race, whether you think that Republicans are going to win both seats, or if Democrats are going to win one seat and Republicans win one, or Democrats sweep both seats. So make sure you tell me that in the comments below. Tell me what you think the polls mean. And so yeah, subscribe to my channel if you have not for more political content on the daily, and I will see you guys in the next video.